Welcome to Kansas Ag Report. I'm Ken Rogers. On this week's program, we talk markets with Mike Zuzolo, Global Commodity Analytics and Consulting in Atchison. We talk about the recent acreage report and what other factors to be looking for when pricing or selling and now through harvest time. We also have features from the Kansas Soybean Commission and Kansas Department of Agriculture, and the weekly update from the Kansas Livestock Association, and more market info from Pinion, a division of K-Coe Isom.
Kansas Ag Report brought to you in part by the Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers, Kansas Farm Bureau, a grassroots ag organization representing the state's farm and ranch families since 1919, KFB.org. And the Kansas Wheat Commission, lending in the adoption of profitable innovations from wheat, online at kswheat.com.
In agricultural news from agview.net, Governor Kelly has issued drought declarations for 74 out of 105 Kansas counties, either in emergency, warning, or watch status. The drought declaration places 13 counties in emergency status, 18 into warning, and 44 into watch status. The action was recommended by Earl Lewis, director of the Kansas Water Office and chair of the governor's drought response team. Most of the state had received fewer than 70% of the normal rainfall since January. Many southwest counties have received less than a half of their normal precipitation. Counties who are in an emergency stage are eligible for emergency use water from certain state fishing lakes due to the Kansas Water Office Memorandum of Understanding with the Kansas Department of Wildlife, Parks, and Tourism. Individuals and communities need to contact the KWO for water supply requests prior to any withdrawal from those lakes. They will in turn be referred to the appropriate office to obtain the necessary permit to withdraw the water. Now, the governor's drought resource team will continue to watch the situation closely and work to minimize the effects that the drought has had on Kansans. For more information about the current conditions, the Kansas Climate Survey and Drought Report, the Kansas Water Office website, kwo.ks.gov. The House Ag Appropriation Subcommittee approved the fiscal year 2021 Ag Appropriation Bill. It includes discretionary funding of nearly $24 billion, representing a $487 million increase from 2020. $4.2 million for rural development, $1 billion for rural broadband, also $68.2 billion required for mandatory spending for SNAP, and $3 billion for the SNAP Reserve Fund. The bill also includes language to block the able-bodied adults without dependent rule and standard utility allowance proposed rule. The bill also blocks USDA from granting the line speed waivers for feed processing facilities during a public health emergency. You can find more on these stories at agview.net. Stay with us. More coming up.
Kansas Ag Report brought to you in part by the Kansas Livestock Association, supporting members' business interests and meeting consumer demands. KLA.org. Oldie Seed Farms, carrying soil-specific seed. Find them on the web at oldieseed.com. That's OHLDE seed.com. And Kansas Corn, building the future at kansascorn.com.
Next time you see a beautiful field of corn, reach out and thank the farmers who work tirelessly to raise corn for livestock feed, renewable fuels, and exports to feed a growing world population. The farmers on the Kansas Corn Commission work for Kansas Corn with grower-funded checkoff dollars that support foreign and domestic market development, research, promotion, and education to expand opportunities for Kansas farmers. To learn more, visit kscorn.com.
And our guest is Mike Zuzolo, Global Commodity Analytics and Consulting from Atchison. And Mike is here to kind of talk about what's going on in these commodity markets, looking at maybe some opportunities for the rest of the year. And Mike, just a few days ago, the planting report came out, the planted acreage report, and had with it a few surprises, but overall it still showed Kansas farmers and really the U.S. farmers really got after it. And let's kind of break down those commodities. And we can start with corn, but maybe give some of your overall observations of what you saw from that report and what it means moving forward.
Yeah, thanks for having me back, Ken. It's nice to be with you again. I think the biggest thing that I realized after the acreage report is now the weather matters. We're essentially going from a 4 billion bushel carryover potential down to a sub 2 billion bushel carryover potential, depending on the next 10 days of our rainfall in terms of the pattern and the heat that we're seeing, the potential migrating from the west to the east, and a lot of potential losses east of the Mississippi River. It's not all about Kansas and Nebraska and the Dakotas this year. There's a lot of tough spots in central and eastern Corn Belt as well. So the acreage report was able to bring and resurrect the weather market and the potential for a corn pollination weather market that we have yet to determine what that supply is going to be. And I think the listeners and the viewers need to really keep that in mind, because Friday we'll get that new WASDE report, and the trade estimates are still way high, up there at 179 bushel yield average for corn and near 50 bushel yield for beans. Those numbers may be completely useless by the time we get to Friday afternoon if the rains don't come as advertised on the GFS model. Maybe the biggest thing that I also realized after that acreage report was the idea that Brazil being 90% sold on beans, Argentina maybe being out of corn, these things matter. China coming in and buying corn this week, Mexico coming in and buying corn this week. We may be getting to a point now, because of the supply issues USDA brought on that acreage report, that the COVID is coming in on major importers in Asia and Latin America and saying, hey, we better stockpile a little bit here in case we have a COVID resurgence. So we could actually have a demand bump from a result of the COVID resurgence, which is kind of counterintuitive, but we wouldn't have had that kind of mindset had not USDA cut those supplies so much.
Soybeans, another story, at least in Kansas, could be a record crop, but in other areas, we saw a slight reduction in acres and more corn acres.
Yeah, and this is where I think 2012 becomes a real focal point for me and my clients and subscribers that I work with. Is we're about half the price right now in December corn, and I'm not sure if we're half the price in November beans. I forgot to look, but we're half the price. We're almost $7 a bushel in D's corn at this same time period in early mid-July back in 2012, because the crop conditions were 40% good to excellent as opposed to 71% for both corn and beans. This, again, could be a real surprise to the trade. If we miss some of these rains that are absolutely crucial on both sides of the Corn Belt, then the beans could easily, I think, follow along in percentage gains terms with the corn. And I say that, Ken, even though the USDA Ag Attaché just came out a day or so ago and really sliced apart the Chinese bean import number that the USDA is using. I think they went down to 90 million tons, and USDA was using a 94 or 96 million ton number, depending on which marketing year you're looking at. So I think the U.S.-China trade frictions, along with the African swine fever still being an issue in China, has really hurt the ability of the Chinese to come in and actually buy into the market as much as they should have based upon that phase one trade deal. I was looking at some statistics before we went on the air, and Peterson Institute has about $3.5 billion, I believe it is. 5.4 billion is what they have bought from us in China in ag exports in dollar terms, and the commitment is around 33.4 billion. So they're way far behind, and I'm nervous they're not going to make that up in the soybeans. So I'm still, like we talked, I think last time, I'm still real nervous about beans carrying too big of a premium, and I want to hedge those first.
Mike Zuzolo, Global Commodity Analytics and Consulting in Atchison, is our guest. We're going to take a break, and we'll talk wheat when we return.
The Kansas Ag Report brought to you in part by Kansas Grain Sorghum, growers working together. Learn more at ksgrainsorghum.org. Grass and Grain, online or in the mail, keeping Kansas farmers informed for over 60 years. Grassandgrain.com. And agview.net, serving the Beef Belt and Western Corn Belt with reliable and relevant agriculture information. agview.net.
Grain sorghum is one of the most important cereal crops worldwide, and Kansas leads the nation in its production. Over the years, sorghum has been either exported, used in animal feed domestically, or for other industrial uses. Recently, its use in the ethanol market has seen tremendous growth, with 30% of domestic sorghum typically going to ethanol production. Kansas Grain Sorghum is committed to sorghum research, market development, and education. Learn more at ksgrainsorghum.org.
And our guest this week, Mike Zuzolo, Global Commodity Analytics and Consulting in Atchison. And Mike, wheat harvest in Kansas just wrapping up. It's been as typical of Kansas wheat harvest. Places have been very good. Other places have had quite a struggle. But the market seems to be paying attention. And but also globally, it looks like there may be opportunities for wheat farmers to maybe make a little money. Possibly.
Yeah, I think this is where the WASDE report really is the biggest issue coming on Friday. Ken, when it comes to the global wheat numbers, recall back in the May and June reports, the World Agricultural Outlook Board just threw tons and tons of wheat at us both months, and upwards of 8 to 10 million tons in terms of carryover increases between the 2 months combined. And I think they're going to have to pull back on that. I think they're going to have to pull back on that for France. I think they're going to have to pull back that for Russia. In fact, the Prime Minister of Russia, Medvedev, just came out this week and said, we're going to have to take a look at limiting our exports. This was right after Egypt took on a big tender and purchased a bunch of Russian wheat at about $210, $218 a ton, real close to where we're at in terms of price. So they won the battle again in Russia on getting the award from Egypt, but it's mainly on transportation and logistics and freight. So we're very competitive. We have a very good quality crop. And notice what's happened since the acreage and stocks report. Wheat has not played along with the corn and beans. We used to have difficulty getting above 335 in lead month corn and getting above that 855 level in lead month beans. After the acreage report, both those prices shot above those levels. Corn and beans, that is. Wheat, though, has not been able to get above $5 in soft red, not been able to really get above $4.50 in hard red. I think this tells you and gives you a pretty good indication. A, wheat is discounted and it's too cheap right now, in my opinion, especially given the global situation and what we're seeing in Kansas and the harvest data we're getting now. And B, you need the funds on your side. And if you're going to get the funds on your side, you need the wheat on your side. So wheat is still my leader in the big picture. If I want $4+ corn and $10+ beans, I think I need wheat on my side to be able to get there, not just Mother Nature.
Right. And Mike, we continue to hear farmers saying that, they're taking kind of that second look, if you will, of wheat. A lot of those wheat acres went into corn over the last 3 years. With the weather patterns changing, might we see more wheat acres planted this fall?
I think we could if we get a better basis level. I don't think we're there yet in terms of incentivizing the farmers, especially if they knock off a good yield in their 10-year average and pick up a subpar yield this coming year when they look at their new insurance policies, with that 10-year rolling average on yields. But I think going back to that first segment, really, Ken, it's in the wheat and rice markets that we really want to watch these Asian buyers. In Thailand, the rice price is about 21% higher than it was a year ago. In Pakistan, the wheat price is about 25%, cash wheat higher at 25% than a year ago. These countries are having difficulty getting wheat because of COVID, not just because of freight and transportation, but because of labor issues and lockdowns in general. And I think they're going to really need some extra wheat and extra rice here if we have this resurgence again. So, as we said, a bump in the short term on demand, but then in the back end, as we talked about last time, that summer grilling season seems to be getting hurt now with the United States resurging in COVID. Summer driving season probably will as well. So be careful about getting too bullish. Get those floors underneath you when you get profit per acre.
Mike, if folks want to talk with you or get more information, how's the best way to get a hold of you?
Best way is go to the website, globalcomresearch.com. That's globalcom with 2 M's. Or globalanalytics.biz. Sign up for a trial or get my phone number and give me a call and let me know what you need.
Thanks, Mike. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Ken.
Mike Zuzolo, Global Commodity Analytics and Consulting from Atchison, has been our guest. Stay with us. We'll have more coming up.
Next time you see a beautiful field of corn, reach out and thank the farmers who work tirelessly to raise corn for livestock feed, renewable fuels, and exports to feed a growing world population. The farmers on the Kansas Corn Commission work for Kansas Corn with grower-funded checkoff dollars that support foreign and domestic market development, research, promotion, and education to expand opportunities for Kansas farmers. To learn more, visit kscorn.com.
Many seed companies claim to offer the latest genetics, but how many have tested those genetics in soils just like yours? The Oldie Seed Know to Grow research program has fully tested the latest seed genetics in soils that are right in your neighborhood. The Oldie Seed Know to Grow program can recommend the best performing hybrids from technologies like Enlist, Extend, and Liberty Link that will optimize the yield and profit of every acre on your farm. Contact Oldie Seed today.
What if U.S. soybean meal were more than a commodity? If seed companies and the soybean checkoff built a better variety? That future is here. The time is now. To meet end-user demands, the soybean checkoff is investing in the compositional quality of soybeans, including meal. A message from the Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff. Progress powered by Kansas farmers.
Years ago, the Kansas Soybean Commission teamed up with Kansas Pork and Kansas Farm Bureau to plan and lead agriculture tours for dietitians and online influencers. The idea was that inviting influencers and dietitians to see the best of agriculture firsthand would improve trust and communication about the food system from farm to plate. 3 unique tours, Farm Food Tour 2.0, and Real Pig Farming, each with their own itinerary to immerse participants in the farming experience. The tours visited crop and animal operations, some of which were specialty operations, as well as companies on the scientific side of food production. After a number of tours, the outcomes to date are positive. The quantitative survey results from the tours show increased confidence in the food production system for each category surveyed. Considering the collective online reach of the 50 dietitians and 45 influencers who have so far participated is about 5.25 million people, that's a major shift in online conversations. The biggest change in sentiment came from concerns over raising animals in barns. The average response prior to visiting operations was 4.10 on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 noting the most concern. After seeing and learning, the level of concern dropped to 1.75 on the scale. GMOs moved from 3.50 to 2.11. The environmental effects of animal agriculture moved from 4.20 to 2.82. Farm sustainability moved from 4.95 to 3.61. And rounding out the top 5 biggest changes, hormone use in raising animals moved from 4.02 to 2.86. The influencers and bloggers overall reported feeling more knowledgeable about food and farming, more comfortable in sourcing information about farming and safety, and fewer concerns overall about the way food is raised.
What if U.S. soybean meal were more than a commodity? If seed companies and the soybean checkoff built a better variety? That future is here. The time is now. To meet end-user demands, the Soybean Checkoff is investing in the compositional quality of soybeans, including meal. A message from the Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff. Progress powered by Kansas farmers.
Many seed companies claim to offer the latest genetics, but how many have tested those genetics in soils just like yours? The Oldie Seed Know to Grow research program has fully tested the latest seed genetics in soils that are right in your neighborhood. The Oldie Seed Know to Grow program can recommend the best performing hybrids from technologies like Enlist, Extend, and Liberty Link that will optimize the yield and profit of every acre on your farm. Contact Oldie Seed today.
These days, no one can afford to take the risk of being without financial protection against high health care costs, not even for a few days. Kansas Farm Bureau health plans offer short-term health care coverage to fill in those temporary gaps. Short-term health plans can provide you with medical coverage when you are between health plans, helping lower your potential financial risk. Learn more at kfbhealthplans.com or contact a Farm Bureau financial services agent near you.
For the last 5 years, all of us at the Kansas Department of Agriculture have spent our summers looking forward to the Summit on Agricultural Growth, a time when we have traditionally brought all of the industry sectors together in one place with one goal: growing Kansas agriculture. Unfortunately, this year, after careful consideration and regard for the health and safety of everyone in our industry, the Kansas Department of Agriculture has made the difficult decision to move the 2020 Ag Growth Summit from an in-person event to a virtual experience. We are disappointed that we're unable to hold this event in person, but we are excited about the possibilities of what a virtual summit could entail. The Ag Growth Summit has become a highlight of the year for agriculture leaders from across the state, as a day full of networking, collaboration, and conversation with farmers, ranchers, agribusiness owners, and industry professionals from throughout all corners of Kansas agriculture. We plan to preserve some of these elements, including interactive sessions designed to promote action and engagement among the Kansas agriculture community. This year, with the virtual summit, those breakout sessions will take place over a period of several weeks leading up to the summit, using internet meeting services. The sessions will be recorded so that others can watch even if they're not able to participate. But keep Thursday, August 20th on your calendar. That will still be the date of the virtual Ag Growth Summit that will include an opportunity to share some of the results from those sector breakout sessions, as well as hear updates on current issues and critical topics that affect all of Kansas agriculture. Details for this year's Ag Growth Summit are posted on the KDA website at agriculture.ks.gov/summit. Whether in person or online, KDA remains committed to our purpose to serve, promote, and grow the state's largest industry. Please watch for details so you can join us this year in our virtual Kansas Ag Growth Summit.
The Kansas Wheat Innovation Center in Manhattan is rediscovering ways to get improved varieties and new genetics in the hands of farmers faster. Grower-led and checkoff-funded research initiatives are bringing about positive change. This grassroots leadership provides a strong voice in Topeka and Washington, D.C. Now is the time to partner with Kansas Wheat in moving wheat forward. Kansas Wheat Commission and Kansas Association of Wheat Growers. Farmers investing in their future and yours. Log on to rediscoverwheat.org.
No one plans to get sick or injured, but when life happens, it's important you and your family are protected. Kansas Farm Bureau health plans are there to provide continued health care coverage to meet your needs. Choose from a broad range of individual and family plans. And if you're over 65, we have options for you too. Learn more at kfbhealthplans.com or contact a Farm Bureau financial services agent near you.
The Kansas Department of Agriculture Division of Animal Health has confirmed additional cases of vesicular stomatitis virus in horses located across south central Kansas. The virus was first found in Butler County in mid-June and now has been confirmed on more than 40 premises in Butler, Cowley, Greenwood, Marion, Sedgwick, and Sumner counties. All premises with confirmed cases of VSV or that have animals showing clinical signs consistent with the virus have been placed on quarantine. In total, more than 90 premises currently are under quarantine in the 6 counties. A quarantine for VSV lasts at least 14 days after the last animal is diagnosed and is not lifted until a veterinarian examines all susceptible animals on the premises. VSV is a viral disease which primarily affects horses, but can also affect cattle, sheep, goats, swine, llamas, and alpacas. At this time, all confirmed cases of VSV in Kansas are horses, although some cattle have shown clinical signs and confirmatory laboratory results are pending. In horses, VSV is typically characterized by lesions on the muzzle, lips, ears, coronary bands, or ventral abdomen. Other clinical signs include fever and the formation of blister-like lesions in the mouth and on the dental pad, tongue, lips, nostrils, ears, hooves, and teats. The primary way the virus is transmitted is from biting insects like black flies, sand flies, and midges. It also can be spread by nose-to-nose contact between animals. Anyone who suspects animals may have the virus should contact their local veterinarian, as VSV is a reportable disease in Kansas.
Many seed companies claim to offer the latest genetics, but how many have tested those genetics in soils just like yours? The Oldie Seed Know to Grow research program has fully tested the latest seed genetics in soils that are right in your neighborhood. The Oldie Seed Know to Grow program can recommend the best performing hybrids from technologies like Enlist, Extend, and LibertyLink that will optimize the yield and profit of every acre on your farm. Contact Oldie Seed today.
Grain sorghum is one of the most important cereal crops worldwide, and Kansas leads the nation in its production. Over the years, sorghum has been either exported, used in animal feed domestically, or for other industrial uses. Recently, its use in the ethanol market has seen tremendous growth, with 30% of domestic sorghum typically going to ethanol production. Kansas Grain Sorghum is committed to sorghum research, market development, and education. Learn more at ksgrainsorghum.org.
Good morning, folks. Colette here with Pinion, a division of K-Coe Isom. Well, after the USDA report on acres, we got to see a nice spike higher in the grain markets that lasted through last week. This week, however, coming off of the holiday weekend and anticipating another report, we traded in a sideways to lower fashion as markets have digested the news and look to trade in a normal seasonal weather market. Weather markets can be volatile depending on what hand Mother Nature deals. So as we look to see how crops are developing, it will be important to watch the markets and look for pricing opportunities, as we know that we are in the midst of when we would typically see that seasonal rally. Other markets to keep an eye on include crude oil and the American dollar. Both markets have supported the grain rally and now have stalled out. Crude oil has been stuck sideways at about the $40 mark for the last month. The dollar has also been stuck sideways for the last month or so. The next month or two here are going to be really important, not only for crops, but the markets as well, as we watch for a breakout in either direction in many of those markets. If you're watching the weather and watching your crops and keeping an eye on the markets, it can be a challenge to know when to pull the trigger or how to pull the trigger without worrying about regret. If you have any questions on what strategies can be used to maximize prices or need someone to bounce ideas around with, give us a call at 888-452-8751. I'm Colette Pinion, and we're here to help.
Well, that's our show this week. As you go about your daily activities, be sure to bring along plenty of water, and as always, pray for rain. Be social with us online at kansasagreport.net. Like us on Facebook, Kansas Ag Report Television Show. Follow us on Twitter, Kansas Ag Report. I'm Ken Rogers. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.
Kansas Ag Report brought to you in part by Kansas Grain Sorghum, growers working together. Learn more at ksgrainsorghum.org. Grass and Grain, online or in the mail, keeping Kansas farmers informed for over 60 years. grassandgrain.com.